Maddie Lawler. We would never tell someone with a broken leg to stop wallowing and just get over it. We don't consider taking medication for an ear infection something to be ashamed of. Why would we treat mental health conditions any differently? Instead, we should make it known that getting help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. And we should ensure that everyone can get the treatment they need. This is a quote from Michelle Obama to the Huffington Post on February 17th, 2016. Everyone in this room knows someone who has a mental illness. The Minnesota Department of Education should make it mandatory for all high school students to take a class on mental illnesses before graduating. Not knowing enough about mental illnesses is a serious problem for high schoolers. And then I will present why it is important for high schoolers to learn about mental illnesses in a classroom setting. First, let's talk about the problems of high schoolers not knowing enough about mental illnesses. Mental illnesses are a major part in many of Americans' lives. But when you talk about mental illnesses, do you really know what a mental illness is? Oxford Dictionary defines a mental illness as a condition that causes serious disorder in a person's thoughts and behaviors. In 2015, National Alliance on Mental Health found that approximately 1 in every 5 Americans has a mental illness. They also found that approximately 1 in every 25 adults in a year has a serious mental illness that causes them to miss out on a major life event. Even though a large amount of Americans have a mental illness, many Americans still have a negative view on those who do. Next, I will talk about the problems of high schoolers and mental health stigmas. A stigma is defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary as the mark of disdain or discouragement. The first way that a stigma can affect someone with a mental illness is it can cause them to not want to seek counseling. In the paper, Perceived Public Stigmas and the Willingness to Seek Counseling by David Vogel, Nathaniel Wade, and Ashley Hackler for the University of Iowa's Department of Psychology states that mental health stigmas are associated with people seeking help. Therefore, the perception of those who seek their psychological treatment is undesirable or socially unacceptable. The second way a stigma can hurt someone with a mental illness is it can cause harm to their self-esteem. In the paper, How Stigma Interferes with Mental Care by Patrick Corrigan, an author and advocate for mental health, he states that people with mental illnesses often internalize stigmatizing ideas that the society has brought towards them, making them feel like less of a person because of their psychiatric disorder. Next, I will talk about how limited knowledge on mental health can cause serious problems for college students. Everyone knows that college is a stressful time, and if you don't know the difference between just being overwhelmed, it can cause you serious problems. In 2011, American College Health Association found out that 86.3% of college students said that they felt overwhelmed. If you don't know the difference between being overwhelmed and having a mental illness, it can be deadly. If you miss a warning sign of a mental illness, it could be as small as your mood always being mad or sad, or as serious as taking your own life. Suicide is the leading cause of death in ages 15 to 24. Not knowing enough about mental health is no longer just a serious problem, it's a life or death issue. Now that you know the problems with high schoolers not knowing enough about mental illnesses, here's a solution to this. If Minnesota Department of Education makes it mandatory for all high school students to take a class on mental illnesses before graduating, it will become a part of the state curriculum. Therefore, every school in Minnesota will have to teach teenagers about mental illnesses. This isn't only great for students, this is great for teachers as well. One of the ways that they can do this is by participating in a program called COPE or TEAM. COPE stands for Creating Opportunities for Personal Empowerment, and TEAM stands for Thinking, Emotions, Exercise, and Nutrition. The research from the University of Ohio's College of Nursing found that people that participated in these had higher grades, lower BMIs, better social behavior, drank less, and if they had signs of depression beforehand, it had decreased by the end of this class. This isn't only having it being a state standard isn't only great for students and teachers, it's also great for parents. When your child has to bring home homework, the parent will start to learn about mental health as well. Once parents start learning about mental health, it will decrease stigmas and the taboo about talking about mental illnesses. In conclusion, today we learned the problems of teens not knowing enough about mental illnesses, and finally a workable solution for teens to learn about mental illnesses. If the Minnesota Department of Education making it mandatory for all high school students to take this class is that solution. A quote from the author, Shannon L. Alders: "Never give up on someone with a mental illness. When I becomes we, illness becomes wellness."